In this video, we're going to continue with our exploration of how to choose sites that belong in a reserve system. And in the last videos, we've been considering the case in which there are 8 different sites. And we need to choose these sites so that all 10 of the species we are most concerned with are included in at least one of those sites. And in the previous video, we looked at how that selection would change if we used different criteria. For example, if we chose the biggest sites until we hit all 10 species, we ended up with the solution of sites B, C, and F. And if we used richness as our criteria, we ended up with sites A, B, and C. And rarity, we ended up with sites B, C, and E, and with abundance, we ended up with yet another solution. So the question here, and the main point, is that your decision changes depending on what criteria you use. And sometimes we can use a different kind of method for choosing sites, and that is using an optimization tool. And spreadsheets have an optimization tool that is called Solver. It's located in the Data tab of your spreadsheet, and it's located to the far right-hand side. Now, if you don't see this Solver button on your spreadsheet, go over to the File tab and press the File tab, and then go to Options, and then choose Add-ins. And once you select add-ins, you'll see at the bottom of the screen an option that says Manage Excel Add-ins, and choose Go. And here you can see the different add-ins that are on my computer, and Solver is one of these add-ins, and it's checked. If it's not checked on yours, go ahead and check it, and that would install it, and then you should see the button appear on the Data tab. Now, Solver is a very useful tool, and the workings of it are a little bit more complex than we need to go into here, but for this video we're simply going to introduce you to the Solver dialog box and the Solver method. What this dialog box consists of is an objective function, and the objective function involves setting a particular cell to a maximum, a minimum, or some value. And you set the objective function to the max, min, or value by changing certain cells in the spreadsheet. And then there is this large portion here where you can add in different constraints. And I think the easiest way for me to introduce you to Solver is to just simply run this problem in Solver, and then we'll return to the dialog box and step through it that way. So in this case, we are trying to maximize, we're trying to set and establish a set of reserves and choose sites so that 10 species are conserved. So in cell C4, we need this cell to be 10 in order to meet our conservation goal. So that is our objective function. So we would simply click on this red arrow here, which will shrink the dialog box, and then choose cell C4, and that becomes our objective. And we want this value to be a value of 10, because that will ensure that we've protected all 10 species. Now this next section here is changing which cells. So what cells on the spreadsheet are you going to be able to change? And that means what cells will Solver operate on. And those are the choice matrix. So we'll select the choice matrix, cell G30 to N30, and that becomes the variable cells. Now, what constraints might we have? Well, we have 2. The first constraint is that our total cost has to be below or equal to our budget. And to add that, we press the Add button, And then we set the total cost calculated in cell C3 must be less than or equal to our total budget, which is given in cell C2. If we press OK, you'll see that that constraint now appears in the box. We have one more constraint. Can you think of what that might be? The extra constraint is that our choice matrix must consist of only zeros and ones, and those are called binary data points. And if you choose the drop-down area, you'll see a reference called BIN. And that, when selected, will return the word binary as the constraint. And that means that you're going to let Solver change these variables in the choice matrix, but you're going to restrict it to be a 0 or a 1. Now, Solver has a number of different solving methods. The gradient method, GRG nonlinear, the simplex method, and the evolutionary algorithm. And for this problem, we're going to use the GRG nonlinear method. Now at this point, we can simply press solve, and what Solver's going to do is it's going to try different combinations of zeros and ones, and it's going to ensure that the number of species conserved is 10 and that we are within our budgetary constraints. And then we'll press solve and Solver will be off and running. So when Solver is finished, it brings up a new dialog box and it says Solver found an integer solution within the tolerance. All the constraints are satisfied. And here we'll keep the Solver solution by pressing OK. And which sites did it choose? Well, Solver chose sites C and sites E as the two sites. And by choosing those two sites, you can see that 10 species have been conserved and that we have accomplished this mission with 12 monetary units out of the 20 that we have in our budget. So the Solver method is yet another solution, and this does represent the optimal solution. Now the Solver dialog box, there's a lot to that dialog box, and there's a lot of information that goes behind these different methods. And if you are somebody who's going to be actually using these kind of algorithms to help you with decision making, it's very worth your while to make sure you understand what these different methods are and how do they work. That's way beyond what we're going to accomplish in this video, but I wanted to just introduce you to the Solver function because it ends up being a very useful tool, especially when there are decision-making problems to be had.